So the next segment of our program is a segment that we call a community moment, and it's an opportunity for someone from our community to come and address the gathering. They could maybe share their story from having been maybe a religious person to someone who's not religious. It could be a thought for the day, something interesting they read. It's anything that they want to share. It's a great opportunity for us to get to know each other a little bit better. So today's community moment presenter, to people who come to Houston Oasis regularly, and this needs no introduction, Mike Aus is the one who started Houston Oasis and the Oasis Network. After leaving his role as a pastor almost 5 years ago now, he had the audacious idea of forming the first ever secular weekly gathering right here in Houston. And he serves as the executive director for Houston Oasis. He's the co-president of the National Oasis Network. His talk today is entitled Empathy. So everybody, let's welcome our friend Mike Aus.
I'm going to share a couple of thoughts on empathy for our community moment today. Some things I've been bouncing around. I was at Barnes & Noble checking out the other day, and they were understaffed as always, and there's one cashier working, and I was the next in line to check out, and the line is building behind me, and they hadn't called for backup yet. And there's a woman checking out, and she has her daughter with her, and it seems like she's letting her daughter kind of pay for the books, because her daughter's like fumbling around in her purse, and she was taking forever trying to figure out the money thing, and I'm all in favor of teachable moments, but not when the line is building and I'm next in line, and I've got important places to go, like probably Specs or something. I don't even remember now. But I was thinking, okay, let's save the math lesson for another day. Cashier calls for backup, backup arrives, and they call me over, so I walk by the mom and her kid, and I kind of glance over as I'm walking by, I'm just kind of annoyed. And, it turns out that the kid is not a kid. She is a full-grown woman with, obviously kind of severe dwarfism. And to make things worse, as I walked by, she looked up at me and she smiled. And it was the most beautiful, beaming, radiant smile. And she was clearly buying her own adult books, and her friend, whoever was with her, was helping her. And now I'm like, now I'm feeling like this big, for having all these aggravating thoughts. And so at this point, I'm just feeling like a total jerk. And the internal conversation went something like this, how could you judge, be so judgmental? How could you jump to conclusions like that? If this were Germany in the 1930s, you'd probably sign up to be a concentration camp guard. And in November, you might end up voting for you-know-who. And by that time, I really did need to go to Specs to deal with my self-loathing. So a couple weeks later, I'm in line at my local Starbucks in kind of a similar situation. I was trying to be nice. I held the door for the guy coming in front of me. Well, he gets in front of me in line, which is fine, Well, he ends up he's ordering like 12 drinks, okay? And he's like this young, tatted up hipster dude, and he's got, literally 12, the drink orders are written on little slips of paper wrapped around individual packets of dollar bills, like 12 of them. And again, so, I'm like, the line is building behind me, and I'm thinking, I know my gang at my local Starbucks, they really appreciate it if you call in the complicated orders ahead of time. It expedites things, and, the line is building again, and once again, I'm going to be late to something incredibly important, I'm sure. And so there, at my Starbucks, there's like this high circular table at the area where you pick up your drinks, and with high chairs. And so this is going to be a while, so I park myself instead and start, looking at my phone. And then this guy who had the big order sits across from me. And I'm kind of, again, stewing inside. And then I looked at him, but then I remembered Barnes & Noble. Okay, I thought, okay, something's going on here. So I just looked at the guy and I said, I hope everybody back at the office at least bought you your drink for going to this trouble for them. And he smiled, he said, no. And then it opened up a flood. And he was like, he talked about how he was brand new in town, had just moved in from Atlanta. He was excited about this new job opportunity, but he didn't know anybody in town. And he was nervous and excited at the same time and overwhelmed by Houston. And we got into this great, and just in the midst of that very brief conversation, which humanized him, he wasn't a human speed bump to me anymore. He was a human being. And all that internal, aggravation just completely melted away when I approached him as a fellow pilgrim on this journey of life kind of thing. And isn't that what life is all about? I mean, someone once said, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. And when we take the time to treat people as people and not speed bumps, it makes all the difference. So, after bearing my soul to you on those two stories, I'm thinking there are two possibilities. Either A, I need professional help for my impatience issues, or B, we all struggle with this kind of stuff from time to time. And I'm going to go with B. Because see, I was right, wasn't I? At least some of us. And because I don't think that's unique to me. I think we all struggle at times with being judgmental, with being impatient. Empathy is kind of a hot topic in the psychology world and in brain research right now. A lot of cool stuff being done on it. And long story short, because this is a community moment, not a main talk, and just a couple of things that I've learned recently is, first of all, the good news is it appears that all of us can work on our empathy, and we can actually increase our empathy. Our capacity for empathy is not static. Well, unless you're a sociopath, then there's basically nothing we can do. Seriously, some people have no empathy. But for most of us, it's something you can work on, and your capacity for empathy can grow in your life, and it can also shrink. It's actually something we have to work on, or we can work on. So how can we increase our capacity for empathy? All kinds of things can help. The arts, apparently, are a really big part of that. It's one reason why we have live music every week here at Oasis. Listening to music that moves you, watching movies that exercise your emotions. Reading fiction is a really big one. A lot of interesting studies show that people who read fiction on a regular basis really develop their kind of interpersonal skills, and their ability to empathize with people. You can practice that by empathizing with characters in a book. Probably needs to be good fiction, like 50 Shades of Grey isn't going to cut it. I've been missing you guys because I've been out of town for 10 days. Last weekend I was speaking at Kansas City Oasis, wonderful community just like you all. And then this week I flew back to Houston on Tuesday, drove my daughter up to Chicago, where she's starting grad school at the University of Chicago. So we did a big old road trip together, and we had to get her apartment set up. So even though she's down in the south side of Chicago where the university is, we had to drive out to IKEA, which is like way out in the burbs. And listen, nothing will make you appreciate Houston traffic like driving in Chicago traffic. And of course we didn't know where we were going, and you got to jump across 10 lanes of traffic to get your exit, and it was just really confusing. And I got flipped off more last week than I have in like many years, all in 1 week. And part of that experience then of being on the receiving end of the finger can make you a more empathetic person. So past couple days now, driving back from Chicago, back into Houston, I'm so glad to be home, but I've been more empathetic towards other drivers now, because now I can say, yeah, I was you just a couple days ago. I didn't know where I was going, and so that increased my empathy. Now I know the problem is that generous feeling is going to last like 3 days, and that's why we have to keep working on this stuff. One of the best ways we can strengthen our capacity for empathy is to be around empathic people and to be exposed to acts of empathy. And when we see people doing stuff, there again, interesting brain research behind this. When we see people doing good stuff for other people, it makes all kinds of happy chemicals go off. This is an English major talking science, okay? But I have read about this, and we really do. There's just like this this incredible effect that happens to us when we see people doing good for other people. So that's like, you've been watching the news and they're replaying the story of this guy in South Louisiana who, dragged a woman and her dog from the car underwater. It was amazing. But we need to see stuff like that over and over again, because it makes us feel better about humanity and makes us more capable of doing good things. And that's why I need this community. Hanging out with you makes me a better person. Seriously, on my own, I probably would not go down. Johnny mentioned going down to the Houston Food Bank, Books Between Kids, and Project Cure. On my own, I seriously probably wouldn't do that stuff. I'd sit at home and watch reruns of Breaking Bad. But, but when my people are going down to do something, I'm there with you. And every single time I go, I leave the service projects feeling better about humanity, better about life in general, and really thanks to the efforts of Jess and Abhishek. I really want to recognize those guys for all the thanks. They put these projects together. And thanks to their efforts, Houston Oasis is on track to 1,000 volunteer hours this year for projects in our city. So I'm very excited about what you guys are all doing together. I'm just going to close with this. The Olympics wrapping up today. If you belong to a gym, I've noticed this, every 4 years when the Summer Olympics happen, the swimming pool starts to fill up. And seriously, everybody's doing lap swimming, They got the gear and they're doing it, and, it's, most of the time, like throughout the year, just a few lone lap swimmers, but during the Olympics, you gotta fight for a lane, and they call it the Michael Phelps effect. No, they don't. I just made that up. But anyway, it doesn't take long for people to realize that swimming is really boring and even worse than a treadmill, and they stop doing it. But I used to swim laps until it got too boring for me. But I did read this thing one time about a study where it showed that if you're swimming laps and there's just another person swimming in a lane next to you, just one more person swimming in a lane next to you, you can swim like way farther and better and more efficiently than you would ever swim on your own. You don't even have to know that person. You don't have to be racing that person. Just the presence of another person in the lane next to you makes you swim better. And it reminds me of that often quoted but beautiful African proverb that I love. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I feel that same effect here. Hanging out with you makes me a better swimmer in the pool of life. And doing life with all of you reminds me throughout the week, not just today, but throughout the week, that people aren't speed bumps in the journey of life. Other people are the journey of life. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you.